Burn it or braid it. Sexual energy is not a problem to be solved. It is a force to be mastered. Jung called it libido, a raw psychic current, and Nietzsche insisted that what you do with that current decides whether you become creator or conflagration. This film teaches you how to channel that fire, how to stop reflexive release and convert desire into stamina, work, and authority. By the end, you'll have 5 concrete rituals to redirect sexual fuel into performance, art, or disciplined power. Not repression, but transformation. You feel the heat before you name it. A tightness behind the ribs, a coil in the belly, a sudden brightness in the throat that wants to shout, to move, to consume. That is not shame, that is fuel. That is libido, Jung's raw psychic current, arriving as hunger and wanting to be spent. Most men burn it without thinking. They react, they gratify. They collapse into relief and then into regret. They burn fast, then they vanish like spent lightning. You will not be those men. This chapter teaches you how to stop the reflex and begin the forging. Not by repression, not by denial, by redirection, by learning to take the molten river and pour it, not into the mouth of a momentary pleasure, but into the mouth of creation, of muscle, of craft, of consequence. Nietzsche spoke of transmutation. What you do with energy decides whether you become a creator or a ruin. Choose creation. First, admit the truth. Sexual energy is powerful, primitive, and insistent. It speaks in sensations before language. It steals attention. It rewires priorities. It promises immediate relief if you will only act. It promises oblivion if you do. The common instruction is to resist. Fine, but resistance alone is brittle. What you need is a channel. A channel is not a wall. A channel is a conduit, carved, deliberate, built to carry heat safely into a forge where the blade is made. You have an enemy inside you. Call him the inner servant. He is the clerk of gratification, the voice that insists, answer now, touch now, prove you exist by consumption. He is small, loud and tyrannical. He will howl when you withhold. He will make you dizzy with stories. They will leave. You will be forgotten. Pleasure is your right. Deny it, and you die. He lies. He is the reflex, not the ruler. Starve him, train him. Replace his demands with a protocol. Begin with the map. Learn the signs of the surge. There are 3. A heat that rises behind the eyes, a tightening in the lower belly, a rush of fantasy that not only occupies the mind but steals the future into its present. When you learn to name these signs, call them out loud if you must. Surge, heat, tide. You create a space between sensation and action. That space is where rulership begins. Do this now. When any desire rises, do not act. Breathe. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Then remain in silence for 5 seconds. That pause is not empty. It is the lever. It severs impulse from habit. It lets you choose. Next, the first rule of forging. Redirect before release. You will not merely delay. You will channel. When the surge hits, convert it immediately into movement. Not the frantic, searching movement of chasing sex or distraction. Clean movement. Heavy movement. Lift, sprint, press, hammer. Choose an action that costs effort and produces architecture. 5 minutes of clenched, disciplined physical exertion will burn the flash and seed a different response. Accomplishment. The surge returns as work. Second rule, ritualize the delay. Create a 72-hour buffer for all non-essential gratifications that spring from new desire. This is not asceticism for its own sake. It is training. When you impose a rule only 72 hours, your inner servant learns the economy of waiting. He protests on day 1, he mutters on day 2, and on day 3, if you have been consistent, he is quieter, curious, not dead, subdued, useful. You are teaching your nervous system that not every spark must become a flame. Third rule. Have anchor outlets. A channel without a destination floods. Build 3 tiers. Tier 1, immediate burn. 10-minute intense physical work, sprints, cold shower, weighted carries. Tier 2, medium burn. Sit down and create for 45 minutes. Write, draw, code, Make sound, compose. Tier 3, long burn, a project that consumes weeks and months. Build a piece, train for a contest, start a discipline. Always move the surge along the tiers. Convert the heat into rhythm and habit. The mind will resist. Old habits speak louder than new promises. When you apply these changes, your life will not smooth out immediately. There will be tremors. Sleep will be disrupted. Attention will flare the first nights. That is normal. These are the fires of recalibration. Do not fear them. Feed them to the forge. There is a method to the ritual. Use symbolism to consolidate change. When desire hits, imagine the molten river under your skin. Imagine taking a shovel. Imagine redirecting that river into a channel carved of stone and iron. See the sparks fly as the river meets the anvil. Hear the ringing of a hammer. The symbolic act trains the nervous system as surely as physical action. It redirects attention away from consumption and toward making. Practice the scripted reply. When you are tempted to satisfy an urge via a message, an impulsive meet, or a mindless scroll, have a prepared line in your pocket. Not to send, to read. Wait. Convert. Read it 4 times. Breathe. Choose your tier. Act. The script is a command to the self. It breaks the loop before the loop completes. Now apply it to the body. Sexual energy is embodied. You must use the body to transform it. Build a daily forge block, 60 to 90 minutes, where you subject the body to exacting work. This is not mere exercise, it is ritualized conversion. You do a set sequence, heavy compound lifts, sprints, static holds. You push into discomfort and hold it. The discomfort and the desire meet and reframe. The gym becomes crucible. The body becomes proof. Use appetite as calibration. Measure how often you translated desire into discipline instead of dissipation. Keep a ledger. Each victory is recorded. Each lapse is noted without softening language. Accountability creates momentum. You are not punishing yourself, you are cataloging energy flows to better direct them tomorrow. Bring the shadow into the light. Jung taught that the shadow will not vanish because you deny it. It grows in darkness and then explodes. You must meet it. Write to it. In private, draft a single-page letter to your shadow. Name what it wants, why it wants it, what it fears losing. Fold the paper. Place it somewhere symbolic, under a weight or sealed in a box or burned in a controlled manner. This ritual produces ritualized surrender. You give the shadow form, and by giving it form, you gain governance over it. Do not confuse sublimation with martyrdom. This is not about holy deprivation. It is about investment. A fledgling who denies every impulse without channel will become brittle. A blacksmith who tempers steel knows when to cool and when to strike. You will learn to spend. There are good burns. There are productive expenditures. Learn the economy. Adopt the rule of staged release. When the forge has accumulated heat, after a week of disciplined channeling, allow a controlled release. Not reckless, not anonymous. A decisive, meaningful act. An intimate evening with a trusted partner under agreed conditions. A night of focused, consensual expression that does not dissolve you but completes a cycle. Or, if single, a creative culmination. Release the piece you've been forging into the world. This is not compromise. It is completion. The social world will try to drag you back. People prefer the reactive man. He's easy to read, easy to poke, and easier to control. Your changes will confuse them. Friends will call your discipline denial. Lovers will test the limit. Enemies will bait you. Expect that. Use it. When they prod, you do not explode. You use the pause, the shovel, the channel. You answer when it serves you. You leave when it does not. You will also discover a side effect, charisma. Not the loud, showy charisma that demands applause, a different kind. The tempered man's presence is magnetic. People sense that his choices are economical. He spends his attention like capital. They orbit him because he is rare and because he carries fire, but never burns aimlessly. This is not accidental. It is by design. Finally, prepare a 90-day program. This is your forge plan. Weeks 1 and 2, mapping and ritual. Log surges, implement the breathing pause, build a Tier 1 outlet. Weeks 3 and 4, Establish the daily forge block and 72-hour buffer as non-negotiables. Weeks 5 to 8. Begin the medium-tier creative project and keep the ledger. Weeks 9 to 12. Launch a culmination, a public piece, a transformation in body, a disciplined demonstration. Measure outcomes: work produced, missed impulses, nights slept, discipline maintained. Convert metrics into habit. Micro-orders now. Breathe, move, forge, pause, write, begin. This is not moralizing. This is metallurgy. Energy is ore. You are the smith. You choose whether to burn the metal into smoke or to craft a blade that lasts generations. Make the choice, build the channel, steer the current, rule the fire. You will notice a shift in texture. At first, the energy feels like fire, sharp, restless, demanding to erupt. But once you refuse to waste it, once you choose to carry it instead of spilling it, it changes, it thickens. It becomes something like pressure, like gravity in the chest, like a second heartbeat that beats behind your ribs. Most men cannot hold it. They break at the first surge. They believe release is relief, but it is just evacuation. They end empty, weaker, dependent. You will not. You will learn to contain until it becomes weight, and then you will use that weight to bend reality. Jung called it the transformation of libido. Nietzsche called it the will to power. Both names point to the same law. Energy that is not wasted will eventually demand a higher form. It will seek a new container, a new destiny. This is how instinct becomes art. This is how hunger becomes muscle. This is how lust becomes empire. What you restrain refines. What you waste rots. You must understand the economy of sublimation. Every time you redirect instead of surrender, you are not losing pleasure. You are collecting interest. The longer you hold, the more pressure builds. The more pressure builds, the more force you can apply to creation. Imagine a dam holding back a river. If the dam leaks, the energy seeps into the dirt. If the dam holds, the pressure builds, and with one release it can power a city. You are the dam. Your task is not to block forever, but to direct with precision. There will be nights when the weight feels unbearable. You will sweat, tremble, imagine, collapse. This is the point of temptation, and this is where most fail. Here, you must speak to yourself aloud. Say, "This is not suffering. This is fuel." Repeat it until your voice becomes truth. Then act. Move your body. Write a page. Build one more line of code. Hammer the steel again. The body will obey, and the fire will be carried into shape. You must also create symbols of victory. Without visible proof, the inner servant will whisper that you are only suffering for nothing. That is why you must produce. Each redirected surge must leave behind a relic, a page written, a weight lifted, a project advanced. These are your trophies. Keep them where you see them daily. They are the physical language of your new covenant with yourself. They tell you nothing was lost, everything was forged, but beware of pride too soon. Pride is another trap of the servant. He will tell you after 3 days of discipline that you are already beyond ordinary men. He will whisper that you deserve indulgence. That is his last mask, the mask of reward. See it. Burn it. You are not yet free until discipline has become rhythm, until choice has become reflex. Freedom is not the right to indulge. Freedom is the ability to aim. Do not underestimate the shadow. The more you channel, the more refined your energy becomes, the more your shadow will rise in cunning forms. Jung knew this. The shadow adapts. It will offer disguised indulgence, spiritualized addiction, subtler vanity. The battle never ends. You do not defeat the shadow by killing it. You master it by binding it into service. Each time it demands a release, you answer, "Yes, but not into the dirt, into the forge." You force the shadow to serve creation. That is alchemy. Nietzsche would tell you, become the one who gives law to himself. Not repression, but legislation. Not the monk who flees the world, but the creator who remakes it. The one who says, "I take my hunger and I name it strength. I take my lust and I name it rhythm. I take my chaos and I name it cosmos." That is your task. Not denial, not indulgence, but transformation. channel or burn. And if you choose channel, something new appears. Your gaze steadies, your voice deepens, your presence becomes heavier, as though people feel an invisible force around you. It is not charm, it is pressure. They sense you are not leaking. They sense you carry reserves. This is why leaders magnetize without words. They are reservoirs. They are men who hold. And you can become one of them if you learn the discipline of conversion. Remember this. Every wasted impulse is a throne abandoned. Every redirected impulse is a brick laid. Brick by brick you build a fortress. Energy by energy you build a crown. The fire does not vanish. It rises, it compacts, it becomes destiny. Hold, channel, forge. Burn nothing that could be shaped into eternity. Discipline is not a cage. It is a weapon. It is the iron edge that cuts through distraction, through temptation, through the weak chatter of the inner servant that begs for comfort. Without discipline, desire becomes poison. With discipline, desire becomes fire shaped into a blade. Most men drift. They feel the surge of energy and they react like animals, seeking release, seeking distraction, chasing the nearest indulgence that will dissolve their tension. But this is not channeling. This is leaking. A leaking vessel cannot carry power, cannot inspire respect, cannot conquer anything beyond the instant. A leaking man is a hollow man. Channeling begins where reaction ends. It begins in silence, in the pause where impulse screams and you do not answer. The ancient Stoics knew this pause, but Jung gave it language. The shadow surges, the libido demands form, and the ego must decide whether to kneel or to command. To channel is to command. Discipline requires ritual. The man who wakes without command is already defeated. The man who feeds his hunger before ordering his thoughts is already a slave. Discipline means rising when the body resists. It means withholding when the body craves. It means standing against the storm within. For every indulgence refused is energy redirected. Every restraint becomes fuel. Picture a river unbound, chaotic, destructive, drowning fields and homes. This is desire without discipline. Now picture the same river contained by stone, forced through a narrow channel. Its violence becomes power, turning wheels, lighting cities, moving empires. That is channeling. That is discipline. Nietzsche wrote of the will to power, not as tyranny, but as the fundamental pulse of life itself. Yet the will must be aimed. Without discipline, the will fractures into impulses. With discipline, the will converges, pierces, transforms. You must learn to bind your energies not once, not occasionally, but daily. A man cannot channel what he does not first collect. Stop scattering your attention across trivialities. Stop bending your knee to pleasures that evaporate the moment they are consumed. This is the practice. To gather, to contain, to restrain, and then, at the chosen hour, to strike. Channeling requires focus, and focus is war. Your enemies are legion: distraction, lust, fatigue, fear. The whispers of society telling you to relax, to be yourself, to indulge because life is short. These voices are not wisdom, they are sabotage. They are the chorus of mediocrity pulling you back into the herd. Discipline is your rebellion. Channeling is your proof. The body will betray you with weakness. The mind will betray you with excuses. The world will betray you with comforts. Your task is to betray them all in return. Betray the softness. Betray the weakness. Betray the easy way. Choose instead the sharp way, the narrow way, the disciplined way. When you master channeling, you no longer fear tension. You welcome it. You let it rise, let it press against your veins, let it shake your bones. And then you hold it, compress it, transmute it. That trembling does not destroy you, it forges you. Energy that once scattered into pleasure becomes presence. Energy that once dissolved into impulse becomes authority. Pause, listen, feel the heat under your skin. Do not run from it. Do not release it cheaply. Contain it. Let it coil around your spine. Let it flood your chest. Let it sharpen your eyes. Walk into the room with that weight and watch how silence bends toward you. Watch how men shift uneasily, how women sense the storm beneath your calm. That is the aura of channeling. History rewards not the indulgent, but the disciplined. Alexander burned with desire. but he channeled it into conquest. Monks starved their flesh, yet their minds lit the world with fire. Leaders, artists, warriors, every man who carved his name into time was a master of channeling. You cannot name a single one who rose through indulgence, not one. There will be moments when you ache, when restraint feels unbearable, when the animal in you demands release. That is the threshold. Cross it, and you separate from the herd. Fail, and you remain one of them. This is the discipline of channeling, to endure the unbearable, to transmute it into the unshakable. 3 rules to remember. First, never waste your mornings. They belong to clarity, to command, to your highest work. To squander them is to announce your weakness. Second, ritualize your restraint. Do not wait for strength in the moment. Build structures that deny weakness its chance. Third, measure your energy by your results. If your fire produces nothing but smoke, you are not channeling, you are burning yourself alive. Every man faces the choice: burn fast, bright and forgotten, or channel, endure, and carve your mark into stone. The discipline is cruel, but freedom is crueler. The world does not wait for your comfort. It bows only to your command. Do not mistake discipline for repression. Repression denies. Discipline redirects. Repression weakens. Discipline hardens. The repressed man trembles with shame. The disciplined man trembles with force. One is consumed, the other consumes. So the choice stands before you now: to waste or to channel, to scatter or to focus, to react or to rule. The discipline of channeling is the dividing line between the hollow and the sovereign. Cross it, and you are no longer merely alive. You are a vessel of fire, walking deliberately, unstoppable, inevitable. Hold the fire, channel the fire, become the fire. Restraint is not denial, it is not emptiness, it is not the timid suppression of desire. Restraint is the crucible, it is the furnace where raw impulse is melted down and recast into weapon. To restrain is not to silence your energy, it is to refine it until it becomes unbreakable. Most men misunderstand restraint. They see it as weakness, as the refusal to act, as the passive stance of the fearful. But that is not restraint, that is cowardice. True restraint does not come from fear, it comes from strength. It is the choice of the man who could but does not, the man who holds, who waits, who denies the immediate in order to claim the eternal. Imagine the swordsmith. He takes the raw steel, burns it, folds it, hammers it again and again. The metal screams under the blow, begs to be left as it is. But only through pressure, only through repeated fire, does it transform into a blade capable of piercing anything. Restraint is that hammer, that fire, that forge. Without it, you remain raw ore. With it, you become a weapon. In Jung's language, the libido is the flood. It is instinct, hunger, force. Left unchecked, it drowns the man. But when restrained, it takes form. It becomes symbol, dream, creation, destiny. Nietzsche too knew this truth. He called for the Übermensch not as one who destroys his instincts, but as one who disciplines them, shapes them into a higher law. Restraint is the bridge between the animal and the creator. The weak man runs from tension. He believes peace lies in release. He feels the heat in his veins and empties himself, thinking he has won. But every release makes him lighter, smaller, weaker. He throws away his own weight, and with it his own authority. The man of restraint does the opposite. He carries the fire inside. He lets it press against his ribs. He allows the storm to gather, unspent, and in that gathering, he becomes heavy. His presence is a gravity that bends the room around him. Restraint is not repression. Repression hides in shame, pretends desire does not exist, pushes it into darkness until it rots. Restraint faces desire directly, stares it in the eye and says, "You will serve me. You will wait until I decide." Repression kills the man. Restraint crowns him. You must understand, restraint is not passive. It is an act of violence against your own weakness. To restrain is to strangle the impulse in its moment of birth, to dominate the animal before it takes shape. This is why it feels like war, because it is war. Every second of restraint is a blade held to the throat of your lesser self. But what happens when you sustain restraint? When you deny not for an hour, not for a day, but for months, for years, building a fortress around your will. Then the alchemy begins. Energy that would have been wasted transforms. Aggression becomes focus. Desire becomes vision. Frustration becomes creation. You discover that everything you thought you were lacking was never missing. It was being leaked. You were wasting it in shadows instead of forging it into light. Look at history. The mystics who fasted until their bodies trembled. The warriors who marched for days without food or fire. The philosophers who abandoned comfort for the solitude of thought. They did not restrain because they hated life. They restrained because they wanted to taste life in its sharpest form. Their restraint made them heavy, sharp, eternal. The alchemy of restraint is not only personal, it is magnetic. The restrained man alters the atmosphere around him. His silence is not emptiness, but density. His refusal to indulge is not absence, but a statement. I do not waste myself as you do. People feel it, though they cannot name it. Women sense it as danger, as mystery. Men sense it as challenge, as unease. He does not need to announce his strength. His restraint announces it for him. You must learn to see temptation not as enemy, but as test. Every time it rises, it is another hammer striking the steel. Every urge resisted is another fold in the blade. Do not curse the hunger, thank it. Without hunger, there is nothing to restrain. Without restraint, there is nothing to transform. And yet, the danger is real. Restraint without purpose corrodes. If you restrain but never channel, the fire turns inward. It burns your nerves, twists your thoughts, corrodes your spirit. Restraint must lead to creation. You are not a monk fleeing the world. You are a warrior, reshaping it. What you withhold must return to the earth as form, as art, as force. Otherwise, restraint collapses into madness. Here lies the balance. Indulgence destroys, repression decays, but restraint, disciplined and directed, becomes alchemy. It takes the raw storm of your desire and turns it into empire. It takes the trembling of your flesh and turns it into vision. It takes what could have consumed you and makes it into the force that defines you. Do not expect comfort. The alchemy of restraint is cruel. Your body will rebel. Your mind will whisper lies. The world will laugh, will mock, will tempt you with cheap release. You must welcome the cruelty. You must love the pressure. For every second of resistance is proof that you are no longer a slave. And when the time comes, when you choose to release the energy you have stored, the world will feel it. Your words will cut deeper. Your movements will command more. Your silence will thunder louder than the noise of 1,000 men. This is the gift of restraint. When you finally act, your action is not ordinary, it is inevitable. So remember this, every moment of restraint is a seed. Every seed will bloom, but only if you have the courage to wait, the cruelty to hold, the vision to redirect. This is the alchemy of restraint, the art of turning fire into gold, chaos into order, impulse into destiny. Hold back, not because you cannot, but because you will. Hold back, not because you are weak, but because you are stronger than hunger itself. Hold back until your very presence becomes unbearable to the world. Then, and only then, release, and the world will break beneath your fire. That is restraint, that is alchemy, that is power. The journey ends not with silence, but with fire. Not with exhaustion, but with ignition. The man who has carried his energy, restrained it, channeled it, transformed it, he arrives crowned not with metal, but with flame. This is the crown of inner fire, invisible to the eye, undeniable to the soul. The crown cannot be given, it cannot be inherited, it cannot be purchased. It must be forged in solitude, in hunger, in war against the self. Many men pretend to wear it. They decorate themselves with symbols of power, titles, possessions, displays of wealth. But these are masks. The crown of inner fire cannot be faked. It radiates from within. It burns through the skin, through the voice, through the gaze. It bends reality toward its bearer. What is this crown? It is not a single moment of triumph, nor a single act of greatness. It is the crystallization of restraint, discipline, and vision. It is the point where your instincts no longer pull you downward but bow before you. Where your desires no longer command you, but wait silently for your command. Where your life no longer drifts in reaction, but moves as deliberate creation. The crown is sovereignty, The crown is law. Jung saw in the crown the symbol of individuation, the unification of shadow, anima, and self into a singular form. The man who wears it is not torn in pieces by unconscious forces. He has faced them, fought them, and made them kneel. His unconscious no longer sabotages, it serves. His instincts no longer haunt, they guide. The fire that once threatened to consume him now lights his path. Nietzsche would call it the flame of the Übermensch. The crown is not morality, not conformity, not obedience. It is creation of new law, the shaping of existence according to one's will. To wear it is to no longer seek validation, to no longer fear isolation, to no longer bend to the small comforts of the herd. It is to stand blazing alone and to love it. But you must understand, the crown is not comfort. It is burden. To bear inner fire is to feel its weight every moment. It is to burn even when you wish to rest. It is to carry vision so sharp that it wounds you before it wounds the world. The crowned man is not free from struggle. He has simply transcended petty struggle. His battle is no longer against hunger, lust, or fear. His battle is against destiny itself. Picture the crowned man. He enters a room and says nothing, yet the atmosphere shifts. People feel unease, reverence, suspicion. They sense something untamed, something dangerous. They cannot name it, but they respond to it. That is the crown, presence that commands without demand. He does not need to seduce because his fire already attracts. He does not need to intimidate because his fire already threatens. He does not need to prove because his fire already proves him. This fire cannot be extinguished, only directed, and so the crowned man must live in vigilance. If he turns his fire against himself, it consumes him into madness. If he turns it aimlessly, it destroys without meaning. The crown is power, but power without vision is chaos. Thus the crowned man must also be seer. He must decide where the fire burns, what it purifies, what it destroys, what it creates. This is why restraint was necessary. This is why channeling was essential. Without them, the crown would scorch the head that wears it. With them, the crown becomes destiny's tool. The crowned man does not waste. He does not scatter. He does not fall prey to every hunger. He is deliberate. He chooses when to strike. And when he strikes, the world trembles. The crown of inner fire is also curse. It isolates. The crowned man cannot return to mediocrity, cannot unsee the vision, cannot unfeel the weight. He walks among others, but remains apart, always burning, always heavy. Many envy him, many hate him, few understand him, fewer can follow him. But he does not need followers. He does not need recognition. The crown itself is reward enough. And yet his fire is not only for him. Like the sun he radiates, his flame inspires, awakens, unsettles. Some will draw warmth from him, others will be blinded. Some will find courage, others will flee. The crowned man does not decide how others react. He simply burns. His existence is a reminder that greatness is possible and that most will never reach it. To reach this crown is not to finish the path, it is to begin it. For now you are no longer a seeker, you are fire embodied. Your life becomes a weapon, a torch, a forge. You must create, you must destroy, you must lead. The crown does not permit passivity, the crown demands action. So ask yourself, are you willing to burn? Are you willing to carry the burden of fire? Are you willing to be envied, hated, misunderstood, but never ignored? To bear this crown is to lose comfort forever, but in losing comfort you gain eternity. The crown of inner fire is the final transformation of sexual fuel, of restraint, of discipline. It is the visible sign of invisible mastery. Few will see it, but all will feel it. And if you bear it long enough, history itself will bend to your flame. Remember, fire uncontrolled is destruction. Fire extinguished is nothing. Fire crowned is destiny. Burn then, not in waste, not in weakness. Burn as sovereign, burn as creator. Burn until your very life becomes the crown no one can take from you. This is the final secret. This is the crown of inner fire.